Here we go. I'm going to try this again. So I just restarted the stream just to see if that improves things. I'm going to do this for a little while longer. And if it doesn't sort, then we'll try it again. But right now, I mean, I just want to check the lag and see if that improves. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to have to look into what the issue is. I may need to unplug everything and get it sorted, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So, again, sorry if you were in the middle of watching this and now you're having to track me down again, but I just wanted to restart the stream and see if that improves anything. Aspect ratio looks good. I haven't made any really big changes, so I doubt it's going to improve much. But sometimes unplugging it and plugging it back in again does work. So we'll see how that goes. Probably just lost everybody because people have to now figure out where the hell I went. But any way you slice it, sometimes I'm trying to figure out why my Wi-Fi is so bad. I just may have to unplug the router at some point tomorrow and then give it a shot. But it's been pretty okay on streams. Let's see if there's something else open here. Let me just check. Already better. All right, there you go. Excellent. So yeah, maybe that was just the issue here. So let's see. Let's see if it improves and stays improved. But yeah, it's a very strange thing about this stuff. Sometimes, you know, you just have to... Oops, sorry, I'm off camera there. Sometimes you have to just fiddle with it in order to figure out how to improve it. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. Thanks for your patience. We'll see. Like I said, keep me posted. If it goes off the rails again, then we'll just have to... We'll have to take a pause for the evening and then go from there tomorrow. So I'll just have to take a look at everything, but we'll see. Hopefully it's not too bad. So yeah, like in a case like this, what I'm doing is these are all the kind of noodly lines that I do. Whether I'm working in digital or traditional, I'm always working like this. You know, putting in those kind of, you know, Mobius-y lines, those Alphonse Mucha kind of lines a little bit. So sometimes I'll have a line on either side of a shadow, which is kind of a strange, you know, stylistic way to work, but a lot of people I know work that way. Let me see if I can just adjust this camera so it's a little easier. There we go. So, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a stylistic choice. So as I'm illustrating this and I'm trying to figure out, you know, what I'm going to do with this character, a lot of it is, particularly in the first issue, there's a lot of laying the groundwork on this thing. And so the first issue is really going to be where a ton of stuff gets introduced. So if you're, you know, interested in learning about this character and learning about this world, that's going to be the book that you're going to need to have. I'm not going to be doing a lot of retelling of the origin story or anything like that going forward. So this is really the book where it's going to happen. Because I think when you back a first issue, you really deserve to kind of get to see what the origin story is, unless it's something that's, you know, like Cyberfrog or something like that, where there was a recap because there had been a huge, you know, time jump since the first time Ethan worked on that book. But with this is where it starts. It starts here. So I want to make sure that everybody who gets this book really gets to understand this character, gets to see the world, and see it in a very detailed fashion. So that's what's going on here, where I'm illustrating the kind of the ring this guy has. It's the ring of his the secret order that fights all these creatures. And he's got it all over. He's got it on his headpiece. He's got it. It even appears on Phantomas, the dog's forehead. So you're getting to see a lot of that stuff here. But I remember one time when Ethan was streaming, he was having a lot of lag, and it turned out that it was the him just needing to unplug the router and restart the router. So that may be something I have to do, and then we'll just go from here and see. So let me know, Arrogant Ape, if it's doing that, if it's still having that problem. Fingers crossed. And I'll probably do another stream during the day tomorrow as well. So, or at least on the earlier side, not at 1 in the morning, because, you know, it's kind of midweek. There we go. Putting that on the other side. Yeah, Reboot is our friend, absolutely. So what's the reception like? How bad is it on a scale of 1 to 10? And I'll take a look at it and see. Yeah, no, seriously, I mean, I have to do so much of that stuff and remember to do it. We're putting our router under a lot more stress lately, particularly with this. You know, it's the streaming and the shows and everything. I want to make sure the thing is working. Yes. Yeah, I'm back. I just had to unplug. Okay, so is 10 out of 10 bad or good? I just forgot to mention that. So are we 10 being bad or are we 10 being good? Let me know. I just realized I came up with a really good, a good number. I felt like I was just doing the, the lethal weapons, go on 3 or 3 and then go. So great. All right. Excellent. Glad to hear it. So yeah. So I mean, it's that's the whole thing for me is, I was watching. I think Frega has really been doing a lot of art streams probably since he started his channel, and he was talking about, gosh, I gotta get this camera in a better position. Hang on a second. This will be where I drive things off a cliff. There we go. That's a little better. Excellent. Good. So yeah, that's the thing for me that he was talking about, that a lot of people, are like, oh, do people want to watch art streams? When you got to think about it from this standpoint, I guess that's probably why I want to make sure that the stream is decent quality, is if you had told me that you could get a bird's eye view on an artist working, I would have learned so much from watching somebody work. During the years that I was teaching, one of the best things about teaching, or one of the most useful things that you could ever do in teaching that I wish I'd had more of when I was a student, was demos. The thing is that when you do a demo in a room full of 20 students, or 15 students or 12 students, you're never going to be able to have every student hovering over your artboard and seeing the intricacies of what your brush is doing. So this is a really unique kind of situation where people can learn how to see people working and what they're doing and what the medium is doing, and it's one of the things I think is really cool about all this. Not to mention, I mean, yeah, there's talking to your creators. It's great, and I've definitely been to conventions where people have worked and shown their process, but this is a whole new level of that, guys. Whole new level. I mean, when I see Ethan inking, I mean, that is insane. That guy, good lord. His inking is amazing. Actually, I'm sure there are some videos of Kenneth Rocafort working, but I'd love to see those too, man. That guy's amazing. I know Anna does time-lapse videos too as well of her paintings. So that's also fun. There we go. So you can kind of see where that signet ring is that he's kind of got here. Although it's not really that. It's kind of more of a mystical ring. But, he's got that. I've always loved how the pulp characters, like the shadow. If you haven't watched Razor Fist's video on pulp characters, for heaven's sake, do yourself a favor and check that out. So good. But he was talking about the pulp characters, and they all have certain things. Like the shadow had a ring. The Phantom had a ring. Every character has got like these certain qualities, the pulp characters. And when you're writing them, you have to kind of let yourself, and creating them in particular, you have to let yourself go into the kind of cheesy aspect of this, and I think that's the stuff that really makes for fun storytelling. And there's so many, like, I like the sort of silly qualities of Batman. I don't need it to always be serious, and that's the thing to me that the pulp does really well. Like, I love what he was saying about Zorro, who's a really great character, and some of those, and it's like, how do you make that stuff contemporary? And I wanted to make a character that had this look, like, hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Good to see you. But I wanted to make sure that, I was doing this character in a way to where, we're living in a time period right now where there's been so many amazing special effects and so many amazing creatures. I think of anything that Weta has done. I think of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I think about, how do you make something that lives up to that. When you see the Kraken coming out of the water, or you see any of the things in those kinds of flicks. And the thing I've come down to is, it's like, we have no budget, so we should do that stuff. We should make this stuff as crazy as we possibly can, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this. I mean, I don't have to worry about building a set. I can make this as big as I want to. Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, Tommy, who's talking to you right now? Who's talking to you about what I'm up to? That is a really good segue. So guys, something I have been working on. So I've been writing a book, just a straight book for a while, for fun, like a kind of, I don't know what you call it. I guess you'd call it a kind of pulp sort of storybook. And I have been entertaining, and I'm looking at doing a serialized, I don't want to say radio show, but kind of more like just an audiobook version of it. And I was going to ask you guys tonight if any of you guys would be interested in that. It's not related to this. It's its own kind of thing. But I was just doing the graphic design for it, and I thought, well, maybe I'll try putting that on my channel because I think that we're ripe for that kind of thing. What do you guys think? Is that something you'd like to at least see crash and burn? Let me know. I don't know. I don't know if it'd be any good, but I really like the story, and I was thinking, I could try that out. Just take some audio recording. But yeah, I always listen to the Shadow Pulp radio show by with Orson Welles. I always think that's really great. Love that stuff. But yeah, I think that we should be doing radio shows, and the reason why I was thinking I'd always wanted to do that. But the reason why I was thinking about it in particular is that Ethan was talking about how more creators need to look at radio and work on their broadcasting skills. And I thought to myself, you know what? When I think about radio, I always think about radio shows and pulp stories. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's something I'm actually on the verge of doing. So let me know what you think, Tommy. I don't know. I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt anything, but if there are any votes of confidence. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love that stuff when I'm working. Love to listen to that stuff. And I was actually, who was I talking to the other day? Oh, I was talking to my buddy Nick, and I asked him if he had ever heard of or listened to the Star Wars radio shows that they had produced, and he'd never heard of them, and those were amazing. If any of you guys have not listened to the Star Wars radio shows, they are absolutely worth a listen. Absolutely worth a listen. I used to have them all on CD. I had the entire series of Star Wars radio shows. They're worth a fortune on CD now because, hard copies of them are pretty pricey. But let's see what I have here. Let me just see. All right, see you in the morning. Take care, Arrogant Ape. It's good seeing you. And rest well, brother. But it's one of those things to where a friend of mine actually had a really horrendous case of diabetes, lost his vision, and I was like, all right. I was like, and he became very vision impaired. And while he was in the stage of them trying to sort it out and kind of try to repair the damage as best as they could, I was like, dude, you should have these CDs to listen to. Yeah, it's one of those things. But they were great radio shows. Just amazingly cool radio shows. Let me see here. I mean, aren't those great, those radio dramas? I mean, and this is the crazy thing. Like, when I'm doing my videos, or let's say, hypothetically, I'm doing some music for the Crack Pack here. or Ethan intros. I do a ton of editing and playing around with audio, and I just thought, I could do something really interesting. I don't know, it'd be a combination radio show. And I would, of course, record them in advance. I'm not going to do a live reading of these things, but I think it could be interesting. Hey, Corey Ransom Art, what's up? I am actually thinking about, if you guys are interested, I'm thinking about doing a serialized kind of story that's just audio and, with a screen image on it, because there's no way I'm filming myself doing that. But the idea is something I've been thinking about for a while, and then I just thought, well, what's the point of not doing things if there's zero overhead for them? Other than driving my audience away by them going, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. So yeah, let me know in the chat if that's something you would love to see me do. I don't want to say love to see me do. Something you wouldn't despise if I did it. And it wouldn't get in the way of this, obviously, but it's just something to kind of, advertise the book. And it's not related to this story, but it's just another fun story I have that I've written, God, I don't know how many chapters I've written, but I think it might be a little bit easier for me to just kind of perform it and do it that way. Oh, what? I didn't catch that. What was that like? That sounds really cool. Well, and you know what's so funny is so many people were telling stories on Halloween. I think that Phil Diaz, right, was, or one of the Diaz brothers was reading Edgar Allan Poe, if I'm not mistaken, and another channel did a Poe reading, Townsend's, which is, of course, not a comic book channel. It's an 18th century history channel. Really awesome channel. If any of you guys have not checked them out, they are so amazing. They actually are I don't want to say they're my business model or anything like that, because they're incredibly, they're just, it's incredible what they do. They're a huge outfit now. But they're based out of Indiana, and but they have this thing where it's like, you go to that channel and boy, is it just all interesting, all cool, and just very kind of mellow and not too intense. And I've been thinking a lot about how with our entertainment, our fantasy, during periods like the one that we're in historically, we've been drawn to things like comic books, movies, cheap movies, movie theater, things like in the Depression, and then radio shows. And I thought, now's the time to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, it ties into my whole love of pulp. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Whoa. Yeah, Christmas Carol is the best. That story is incredible. It really is. Like, that is its own mythos. I just love it. I actually have, I think I probably mentioned this on a previous stream, but I have a facsimile edition of the Christmas Carol book that I take out during the holidays because I just have so much respect for Dickens as an author. Just incredible author. One of my absolute favorites. That book is so brilliant and so, it's brutal in the best sense. I mean, it just lays it all out. And what a Christmas ghost story. How awesome can you get? And I never realized that, how, I don't know why, for some reason it just seemed like that stuff has always existed when I heard that story for the first time. And I realized, wow, some guy sat down and invented this and redefined and made it such a huge part of the holiday season. So, love that stuff. Oh my gosh, that's outstanding. How did Cecil do? Cecil's always great. That was hilarious. That's awesome. Yeah, guys, let me know in the chat when I keep moving the dang thing out of frame. I always am moving this out of frame when I'm working. So, again, apologies. Oh, I would love to see that. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing something like that because I just think we all need to just keep trying stuff, and seeing what's out there. Because I know that there's a lot of people who are playing around with radio shows. I know that Doomcock does do some kind of radio show-esque stuff. I mean, he's a real performer. Who else? I think is Razorfist doing that kind of stuff. I feel like that's something he's kind of tiptoeing around, with his stuff. And I know he's an author. So that's probably an element of what he's doing. Where the hell was I going to put this paint? Is the next question I have. This is what happens at this time. Let me see here. But yeah, I loved his video on Pulp. It was great. And he tipped his hat to The Rocketeer, which is one of my favorites, as you guys know. I love The Rocketeer. So, really great to see him kind of give a nod to Dave Stevens. There we go. It's coming together there. There we are. Oh, nice. I will give it a listen. Oh, no kidding. Some old voices that are no longer in CG. That'd be interesting to see, actually. God, yeah, things have changed so much. But I actually think that that's one of the things about people coming together in CG and all this stuff, that there's we joke and we laugh and we crack each other up, but there's also this aspect of, you start seeing this more and more around the holidays, of everybody kind of wishing each other a happy holiday season or Merry Christmas or whatever it is. And there's this kind of like, people almost expect like what's going to be happening for the holidays. Like, what are you guys doing for the holidays? And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So yeah, when we got to Halloween, I really was, it'd been a crazy day, and there's always a lot going on, and I thought I have to do something to mark the occasion on my YouTube channel. And it is kind of a funny thing, you think about that stuff, and it's like, it's so important. It's so important to do. So yeah, my plan for that radio show is something that we'll see how it goes. It's we'll see. I'll try to do something with it, and of course it's all going to be a part of generating more stuff and more enthusiasm for the stuff we're doing on this channel, but I also think it'll open up some doors because we've got some really great writers, and we've got a lot of artists and writers who are good with voices and do really good voice work. And if you have a decent audio setup, it's not that hard to do that stuff. It's not that hard to fund it. I mean, it's embarrassing. I think you got to kind of put yourself out there, but it's pretty cool. So we'll see. It may be awful, but I've already survived the voiceover I just did on trailer 2. So if I can survive that, I'm sure I can survive embarrassing myself in that way. And I can always adjust, various dials. I don't know if I told any of you guys that, but for those of you guys who have seen the what's it called? Oh, the oh god, what's the video I did with Morgan Freeman in it and a sample of Danny? What was that video called? It's a popular amongst the crack pack. And so it was Y'all Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack, I think is what the name of the song is, but I could be wrong. But I did a video of that, and that is actually me, just with my voice adjusted a little bit, and because I could not get a clear audio track of the person who originally recorded it. So yeah, I mean, I've been messing around with that kind of stuff for a while, and it's seeming more and more like I want to try to do something in the vein of The Shadow or something fun that people can chill to. Oh, thank you so much, Tommy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, every single panel, my goal is, to make something that you turn the page and you just want to, spend time with it. And, it's the same thing like when I was, the sword that I'm going to be using, I think I talked about a little bit in the trailer that they get the shards of metal for the nose piercing that they've got, is going to be very reminiscent of the Ulfbert sword, if I'm pronouncing that well. I always do a terrible job pronouncing it, but the Viking sword that's done with more or less slag-free steel. And ever since I watched a documentary on the making of that sword, I've been really interested in that idea of various kinds of steels existing during those times, during the Viking period. So I'm looking forward to exploring that narratively. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Jeremy. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the votes of confidence. I do appreciate it. I mean, I want it to be great. It's right now, this stuff, I know I said it on Twitter just a little while ago, but this is the best. Every book I do, I want it to be the best thing that I've done up until that point, and this is without a doubt. I've done my share of comic book work. I've done my share of concept artwork. I've done my share of pulp sort of illustration-y stuff. This is the best stuff I've ever done. It's better than everything I've done, and it's getting better every single page. And I owe a lot of that to just the amount of time that I've put in on these art books. And so I feel like I have, now that I have the publishing understanding, and I've been getting, the all that timing, because I do a lot of work in a fairly short period of time. It just has really helped me to grow as an artist. I think quantity is everything. I had an art teacher once who was a really amazing guy. Actually, he was the guy who had the studio space in the Lovecraft. Hey, Good Stuff Comicscator, what's up? Yeah, crack pack every day. Bow, good to see you. I can't shout because my wife's asleep, but that bow was shouted in my heart. And this student came in and they didn't have a lot of work for that assignment, and this was an older gentleman. And this is the guy who was staying in the, had his studio in the same place that the artist in Call of Cthulhu, the art student, has his studio. So it was a really crazy thing to be in that building. And, but the student said, well, less is more. And his response was, well, if less is more, imagine how much more would be. And I frickin' died. It was one of my favorite responses ever, And it's kind of true. You have to really put yourself out there, and you have to make the best work you can. And I think that's why when we saw, when I see some of the stuff, like when John was talking about what he's going to do with Godlike, I'm really excited to see it. He said he's really going to swing for the fences, do a lot of really big, epic work. I can't wait to see it, And Shane's stuff on Inglorious Rex is great. I did miss Starlight Cats. And I can't right now. I'm like I can't back another tier of that and go higher with it, but I will. I'm sure I will get Starlight Cats. There'll be a book 1 and 2 when he does the if he does the next issue and doesn't just jump to Inglorious Rex. But I hear that book is, I mean, it looks stunning, but I hear the story is fantastic on Starlight Cats. Did any of you guys get Starlight Cats? Because all I've heard is positive stuff about it, so who knows? I was just curious how many of you guys got it. I know a lot of us have gotten Inglorious Rex. There we go. Oh, you liked it? Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I think, Shane Davis's artwork's ever going to let anybody down. I mean, the guy is doing fantastic work, and he's really in the zone. Really in the zone. And I think that, I mean, there's certain things that I'm just always more drawn to the action-adventure stuff. And, I mean, in terms of older stuff, and I did know that he wasn't interested, and I think it's great, by the way, but he wasn't interested in kind of trying to, be everything to everybody, and it was for a younger audience, but I think that the craft in it was obviously going to be fantastic. So, yeah, Shane's a good dude. He's been, he really has, he's really brought something, I think, really interesting to the Comicsgate dynamic by doing the kid story. Did any of you guys catch that that video with the kid who was asking for one of the trading cards that her dad had missed and that they didn't have? Oh man, that kid crushed me. That was rough. I was like, of course she's gonna get that card to that kid. That was so cute. Kid's like, and you're gonna have a baby that's just like me. I was like, man, woo, swinging for the fences there. But yeah, it was cool to see how much that kid loved the book and was excited about it. And that's just something that we can do. That's an audience we can speak to. And I think actually Patrick Thomas Parnell is doing that with the books he's doing. I think he's going to do a Christmas Carol, and I think he's going to do a Sleepy Hollow. I know he's doing a Sleepy Hollow book, and I think that's just a really great idea. I'm glad he launched it. It was really smart to launch it during the Halloween time period because obviously, that's where everybody's head is at. Although I kind of live, I don't want to say it's not too extreme. I don't think I'm, as impressive about it as some people are. But I love scary stuff all year round, and sometimes I get in biggest Halloween mood in the middle of the summer. And that's it's such a weird phenomenon, but I know I'm not alone in that. And I can't always guarantee if I'm going to get in the right mood at the right time for the holidays. But of course, I love Christmas as well, which is just in New England, it's a really beautiful place to celebrate that. So it is what it is. Like we've got the nice weather for it. We've got the fall for Thanksgiving and other holidays like that. But I love Halloween, always have. Although I will tell you, I did feel as though, or I do think that this Halloween, obviously with the book and with all of the, various distractions going on, I feel like I didn't get into it as much as I did last year. And, which is fine. I mean, I think I was just, this is where I've been focused, and it's been, I wouldn't trade that for anything. But I think I'm going to probably be doing this campaign, as far as a CG campaign goes, this is definitely a new experience, and I'm learning more and more every single week that goes by on this campaign. I mean, the things I'm most comfortable with at this point are obviously making the artwork and producing the book. That I feel really, really comfortable doing, but I'm getting used to the whole, going on other people's streams. Like, that's all new to me. I was doing this solo. Patrick Thomas Parnell says he wants to do some Edgar Allan Poe too. Oh, that would be great. So are you a fan of Poe, Jeremy? I've been listening to Sleepy Hollow. I do it every Halloween, but I haven't. Edgar Allan Poe, they just did a reading on Townsend's of, oh my gosh, what's the book called? Fall of the House of Usher. And that was really cool. I'm a bit wondering if homage book cover could be a nice idea. Ooh, that's cool. The comic I'm starting to get made is a supernatural dog book. Cool. First part on train, so looking up Murder on the Orient Express covers. Yes, yes, and yes. I love to look at old posters, old book covers. So yeah, I'm gonna go with a big yes on that. Reference, older stuff, pulp. Go for it. I mean, that ground has not been, even though there's a few of us who are into it, that ground hasn't been explored at all. If you look up, and I just tagged this in my latest post on Twitter, I swear, Tommy, I feel like you and I have a ton in common. But I mean, it's crazy like how that's been. But I just like, hashtagged my stuff because I realized I hadn't really hashtagged it as much as I probably should. But I did pulp art hashtags, and I was like, this is exactly what my stuff is. We see those old sort of pulp covers, and I'm a huge believer in referencing the old pulp stuff. There's some amazing artwork done out there, great layouts, and I like the Murder on the Orient Express. I think it's a great book. I like that Agatha Christie does the way that the stuff is much more about the human condition than it is really, a detective story. It's got this great, what's the word I'm looking for? It's got this really great quality of, it's exploring the humanity. So the mystery that you uncover, besides, the crime aspect of it, is why, and the things behind it. Whereas, you can get that stuff in Sherlock Holmes as well, but to me, it's never as much what's it called? Shoot. Can't believe I'm blanking on this. Maybe it's the pathos is what I'm looking for, is not there to the degree it is in Agatha Christie's work. Because there's this heartbreaking sort of aspect when you realize, what was going on in that story. And really brilliant. So yeah, I'm a big fan of you doing that, looking at old pulp covers. Do you have a lot of books on old pulp covers and things like that? If you don't, that's my favorite thing to invest in. The Illustrated Press has a lot of really great books that show off pulp covers, but yeah, there's a bunch. And I have books on pulp next to me. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Phantom of the Opera is another great one. I actually did, in terms of the many adaptations of that, the Universal with Lon Chaney Sr., I made a reference to his makeup in the Strigoi melange piece. I had him standing there as Phantom of the Opera as a sort of like as a servant character, like a butler to this larger vampire. So yeah, but I also remember seeing Phantom of the Opera on stage a few times. I think I saw it when it came to my town in Tennessee, and then I was in England at some point, and I saw it there. So I saw it in London, and it was amazing. It was a really great play, and I do think, again, there's kind of a little bit of a Phantom of the Opera quality to Jack the Ripper, Vampire Hunter. So I think it's yeah, I think it could be a really cool thing. So now, is the story that you're doing, is it going to be like a period piece that takes place in, a different time period? Is it going to be modern with just that aesthetic? I'd be curious to know. There we go. Got a little bit of a wash there. Oh, cool. You just scroll, make sure I didn't miss anything here. Supernatural dog, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was looking at, speaking of supernatural dogs and that whole thing, I was looking at early Hound of the Baskervilles covers, and I know I have. Hang on one second here. I'm gonna let there be just a little bit of dead air while I try to do this. If I can't do it fast enough, I'll I'll stop searching. But oh yeah, is that it? Oh yeah, there you go. So this is my facsimile edition of the Hound of the Baskervilles. So there's your ghost dog, kind of quality, or your phantom dog quality. And this, of course, has a little bit more of a... actually, what am I doing? I keep forgetting I've got this camera here. So here you go. So here is my facsimile edition of the Hound of the Baskervilles, which is a huge influence on the stuff that I'm doing right now. And the thing I'll say about this is... the reason why I like the facsimile editions, if I'm not mistaken, is they have the original Paget, I think it is, illustrations on the inside. And that's another thing that I think that Patrick Thomas Parnell is doing with regards to, here you've got the the handsome with the person inside of it from the story. I'm trying to see where we've got the if there's any illustrations of the Hound. But here's the moors, and this is going to be an influence on where Nosfero lives. He lives kind of out in a place like the Grimpen Mire. Let me see here. I like Edgar Allan Poe, but it's been a while since I've read his stuff. Yeah. It's funny too. It's like that's why I love YouTube's audiobook collection. You can find audiobooks on here somewhat easily. Let me see here if I can find. I don't think there is an illustration of the dog in here somewhere, but oh yeah, there it is. Right there, the glowing ghost dog. And it's really interesting to see the original illustration and what their perspective was on it. So it's crazy. The art is somewhat mixed in time, mainly 20s and 30s. Awesome. Train, mansion, and airship. Darn right. So are you a fan of Mike Kaluta's work or Gary Gianni's work? Because they do a lot of really great Zeppelin work. And those guys, and of course Dave Stevens did some great stuff. But I think of Kaluta's shadow work and Gary Gianni's shadow work as being really brilliant at that kind of stuff. Are you a fan of that stuff at all? I love that stuff. I'll I'll give you my view on it. I think it's just great stuff. But I know it's not, like all artwork, it's not for everybody. But I just love that stuff. I think it's beautifully done. Let's see. Oh, I'm off frame. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to be off frame here. So here you go. There we are. So I always like when you guys get a decent look at the brushwork that I'm doing, because it helps to sort of show how we're working. And I think one of the things about digital that I would always tell students about is, I would say don't digital will let you do a lot, but don't force it to. Put yourself in a situation where you're making yourself have the same crisp strokes that you would have when you're drawing as you would if you were doing it in traditional. And I am as guilty of that as anybody is. But I would say when I work in digital, sometimes I've got to stop doing these like really, jagged sketch lines like that, because it adds so much time. And I've seen some people with the iPad Pro and with the Cintiq do some really gorgeous, graceful lines, and it's just forcing yourself to practice that over and over again. Okay, cool. The characters in the story have been nagging my brain, so I'm trying to... Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of different things to look at. One of the big things I would say to do too is if you're thinking about doing it in a pulp style like that, grab a bunch of old comics and old comic book strip stuff and use that to kind of rough out what you want to do, and you'd be surprised at like how that can how that can bring a certain amount of clarity and keeping the stylistic together. Sometimes that's really a helpful way to approach it, and just kind of treating that stuff like storyboards. But yeah, I love that stuff. And yeah, the budget's a factor. I mean, the reason why I do everything on my books is, and the reason why it's worked out that I've developed every skill I can, but printing, is because, I'm the cheapest person. That's really what it comes down to. And I think that things are getting to the point more and more where there's a lot of opportunity for us to do work. Like, think of how much it would cost to start a radio station. You know what I mean? Oh, excellent. Oh, that's a good title. Yeah, there's so much. So one of the things I was researching the other day was what kind of entertainment has been historically, like during the Great Depression, what kind of entertainment has been recession-proof and economic collapse-proof? Because I always think that's the stuff to look at. When people talk about entertainment and the economy, one of the things I will always say is that Walt Disney launched his entire empire in the middle of the recession, with Mickey Mouse and Snow White and all of that aspirational work. That work came out during a really, really tough time in history. And I think the reason it was successful is because people need entertainment a lot more than we ever really, think. during those times. You want something to take you away and distract you, which is why the current entertainment that we're seeing is really not doing its having a very big impact. It's not doing its job. I think the Marvel movies really, at least in that initial phase, were aspirational and really hit the spot that people were really needing to see artwork doing. But right now things have just gotten so tedious. And so there's room for, when I was looking that up, people were, a lot of the comments were radio shows, things that people could zone out to. And with podcasts and, video shows going on like this, I don't know about you guys, but I've been catching up on a lot of older books, Excellent. Yeah, 32 pages, 24. Any story, 4-page character focus size story. Very cool. Yeah, that's a really good move. I mean, the gentleman I was streaming with the other night was talking about that, breaking things down into short stories. I'm only right to get the art done. Yeah, what's so funny is that something to consider is just looking at your shot compositions and how you can put that stuff together. So what's a really good way to look at it? I'm just trying to think of something. There's some really good books. There's a couple of books you might want to look at that are great by Hans Bacher that are about studies and composition from film that I think writers will probably really enjoy. And then there's a site that I used to look at and advise students to look at for composition. And it's a guy named Evan Richards. And he has gone through almost some of the greatest movies of all time and history, Citizen Kane, and everything up to Lord of the Rings and all of that stuff. And he's done that stuff and done screenshots of every shot. And sometimes I think for writers or artists, it could be a really good thing to look at that and do layouts based off of that. So yeah, it's craziness. 2 pages. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, if there's one thing that I think has been really great for that Ethan has talked about, is I think he's really been really helpful to writers in the sense of when he talks about what you can expect to pay. He doesn't sugarcoat it or anything like that. He says, okay, well, this is about how much it's going to cost for it to be worth an artist's time to do this, and this is, and I think that's a really good way to go about it, because it lets the artists know, funny enough, what is reasonable to expect on some levels, and as much as the writers, so that writers can say, well, I have it on this source that this is, a reasonable amount to pay for a page. And I think that's sometimes it can be really useful to have somebody say that, because when people are left to their own devices, I always try to ask people, on some levels, like what's their budget, what are they looking to spend, and for when I'm not doing work for myself. And I think sometimes it's really useful to have somebody, kind of put out there, this is about what you can expect to pay. So it is what it is. Oh, that's awesome. Quick Doodles, I learned this way. Script from excellent. Very cool. So you know all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I love I just love how much information is out there right now. Everything I've learned about crowdfunding has been stuff I've learned online. I don't know a single person in my immediate vicinity who does this kind of work. So it's been really useful. And it's great to hear that, with between the books and the online materials and everything like that, how much is there for us to study. So if you were recommending, would you recommend that to somebody? Like, is that where you would suggest someone else go? Who's a writer who's interested in putting this stuff together? There we go. Here we go. Am I off frame again? No, I'm off frame. Just checking. You never know when I'm going to go off frame here. There we go. Just wanted to get that a little bit darker so that there's still a value pop there, but it's not as drastic as the ones that are above. It's more like the one that's to the side right there. Oh, recommend, you were talking about that you learned that way to script when editing Lawson. So I was just curious if you think that being an editor and going through that stuff is a good process for somebody, or even just someone talking to you about it in terms of your process, because I think that's a really interesting way to view it. Editing will change your life, right? I mean, it's like you go through so many different things. My friend's wife is actually an editor, and it's really interesting. She talks about all the things that she learns kind of going through that, and I think sometimes it's tough to find resources for it, you know. It's tough to find people who are good resources to go to. And everybody has a different process, too, in terms of how they lay out their story and put things together. Even every artist is different. You know, Ethan does the doodles and then just goes full tilt. And I'm always curious because I remember Alan Moore talking about his process of doing doodles. And I don't know if he's ever talked about what was the process for him getting to that stage. So I'm be curious what your process was in terms of who you were looking at and who was most useful for you in terms of communicating with your artist. Because I imagine you probably have spoken to some artists about the project in terms of hiring. It's interesting, when I was watching Bob Ross and I hear oil painters talk, they talk about getting thin paint sticking to thick paint, or I forget which way it goes. And that's a big thing when I'm working over paint, is trying to make sure that I'm getting the pigment to a point where it'll slide over the work I'm doing and it'll coat really well. And so, yeah, right there I was running into trouble because the paint that was on the underside of it was absorbing and it wasn't coating, so I couldn't get a thin line. Editing does wonders for how you start. Let's see here. And I gotta start reading these aloud. So this is from Tommy here. Editing does wonders how you start seeing how you get ideas into the script and art. People need to be quite clear in their intent. The outlines on even stick figures help a ton to set the space in the scene. Absolutely, yeah. See, that's the thing. I imagine that it's, you know, the communication game has to be understood at a very detailed level when you are dealing with helping people to clarify what they're trying to do. And I think that while it's not the same thing, and I don't know anything about, you know, the editing game, which is what makes me curious about it, outside of editing my own stuff, but as a teacher, when I would look at people's work and critique it, it was amazing how much the broad strokes of things were so helpful in explaining it. And that's one of those things that's, you know, I can't overstate how important that is when people are working. They need to think about that. And so I imagine that, you know, when you're an editor, you develop that clarity of communication, almost like a superpower, because you just, you know, you have to figure out how things are going to land, how things are going to work, how things are going to communicate. And so, yeah, that's exciting. That's really cool. I like hearing about people's process. It's a lot of fun, regardless of what the thing is people are doing. If it's, you know, if it's something that, you know, is a highly developed skill and requires that sort of growth towards mastery, I always think I'm going to learn something whenever people talk about it. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Let me read. Sorry, let me get my glasses on here. And fresh eyes. Yeah, extremely important. This is another one. Sorry, I got to say these things aloud. So this is another one from Tommy. And fresh eyes are extremely important. Mind adds information that is not in the text or even images. You need a person to come into a page cold to make sure the narrative is there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, the whole too close to the project thing is real. I actually have to write notes to myself, and then of course I've got my friend and my wife who take a look over my stuff. But it's and you know, all of them are their spouses or editors and that kind of thing. But the thing for me about it is that I have to write notes for myself while I'm working. Don't forget about that story element. Remember that where that's going to fall in the page. I just think it's so important to write things down so that you can come back to them later when you're working and make sure you didn't lose those story elements as you were working. Like the book that he's carrying right here is really important. It's the big, you know, if this is Raiders of the Lost Ark, let's say, which it's not, But if it was, I don't want to insult Raiders of the Lost Ark because that's a pretty masterful bit of pulp storytelling. But if this was Raiders of the Ark, one of the big things that this would be is this book would be the thing that leads them to the other things that are going to happen. And it's not. I don't like overusing the term. The overuse of the term MacGuffin is insane. This is actually just an actual narrative, and then in the narrative artifact. So it's not just something to drive the story. It's a real artifact. It's not just an object to chase, as I think it's kind of, unfortunately, more commonly understood now. People just think it's just something you put in there that the characters are after, regardless if you are going to use it in any meaningful fashion. But I grew up, one of my favorite films is the Maltese Falcon, the 1941, not 1941, is it? What year is it? Maybe it is 1941, I can't remember. Sorry, my brain's a bit fried. But the Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, I think is brilliant. I think it's a brilliant film. And I love the storytelling, and I love how all of the evidence is there from the beginning. And you can kind of see it as it plays out. They give you more than enough information. And I really just don't like when I get a story and it's just, it's information you didn't have and it suddenly solves it. But you could never have figured it out or even thought that, the things that happened in the story were something that was a possibility. So it's not like it's not about the successful storytelling. It's about the fact that, you were kind of cheated out of information. And I think that that's kind of one of those things to where, while I'm not really writing a mystery story as much as I'm writing a pulp adventure story, that's something I do think about from time to time. So let's take a look here. So here's where we are in terms of getting the hand together, getting that ring in there a little bit more, and putting the story, in there. And I'm going to be doing a more lucid, not more lucid, but more lucid stream soon, I promise. Personally, I really like highlighting page turns. Oh yeah, page turns are huge. So I'm really minded about the basic page structure, as I am not as tied to the page art. That's true. Also keeping character voices consistent. Yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually just talking to someone about a television writer who I think has got a ton of skill as a writer, but has a tendency to change character voices for plot convenience. So if they want two characters to stop getting along, they'll change one of the characters to have attitudes and behaviors that aren't like them, that would of course make the other character not like them, but it's so out of character that would happen. And for me, I'm trying to keep these characters pretty high, wide, and stupid in terms of the way that I want to paint them in the initial first issue, and as we learn more stuff about them. And I think having that kind of character clarity is really important, and to get that consistency there. And if it's too much, if my voice is coming into characters, I'm bringing things into these characters and not thinking about them as their own people, I think it runs the risk of letting the air out of the story. So yeah, I think that's absolutely important. Absolutely important. Well, listen, I'm actually really excited to hear about the story and see where it unfolds. It sounds really cool, so keep me posted on it. I know you'll be in the chat and things like that. But it's 2:35 in the morning here, and I gotta go get some rest. I've had a crazy wonky day today with a lack of sleep. So I just want to say thanks for coming into the chat. Everybody who's been in here today. Let's see here. We've got Tommy in here. We've got Jeremy in here. We've got, let's see, who else have we got in here? Scrolling back. Good stuff, Comic Skater. And let's see here. Corey Ransom Art was here. And Arrogant Ape, of course. All of you guys were great. Thank you so much for coming in here today. I really, really appreciate it. It's always great being here. Yeah, have a good night, Jeremy. It's good to see you. And you guys, thank you so much. Sorry if my stream is a little bit out of it today, but it's been a crazy day and a lot of streams, and I'm kind of in that home stretch. But I'm going to be streaming, I promise, over the next couple days, and I'm really looking forward to it, guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for helping to get the word out. I hope I'm saying that enough, because I really do appreciate it. And yeah, we'll just keep talking projects and keep making work, if that's good with you guys. Yeah, absolutely, I will, and you too. Yeah, of course, my friend. Anytime. Pleasure to do it. All right, you guys, take care, and I will see you guys soon, all right? Take care.